Everyone, welcome once again to Volleyball in Perspective as we sit and talk to the number of enshrinees that are destined for immortality in the Volleyball Hall of Fame right here in Holyoke, Massachusetts. Right now I am joined on stage by Randy Stoklos, and as we chat a little bit, I may not want to jump so far ahead to say that he may have been actually a king of the beach for his contribution as a player, primarily as a beach volleyball player. I realize that with the AVP and the whole tour, there may be a name for champions, but is King of the Beach, has that continued to apply from something that was probably originated out west in California, I don't know, some 30, 40 years ago if you look all the way back?
It was definitely alive and well when we were playing the game in the 80s. It was something that was kind of taken from the early 70s, from Jim Mingus, Greg Lee, the guys that were really owning the sport in that time and day. But things have changed now. Marketing rights, the opportunity to use that name, it's kind of dwindled a bit. And truly that maybe there are other better names that you can call the guys now, and they sure are getting a lot of great recognition right now, and whatever you call them, you can call them very good.
Okay, now I want to key on the phrase recognition because we've been chatting a moment or two before we began to give you what you're seeing now. And I find it interesting that maybe, and of course correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe you don't realize the contribution that you have made from bringing volleyball really into everyone's foresight, aside from the indoor game, because of what you and your peers were doing in the 80s with the outdoor game.
It's just now that I'm recognizing what I had done in the sport and how many people I touched. During the time when I was playing, the one thought was really to go out there and play to your best of your ability. But what turned out to be us playing on weekends and being on TV each and every week, we became household names. St. John Smith and myself played for 11 years together. I don't know exactly how many events were covered by TV, but I know that it was a lot, and we were on almost each and every weekend, especially at the time frame that we were. It would come on in the late evening or the early evening, and we would get the exposure of all the other people, the other sports fanatics that would want to watch all the different sports throughout the day, and all of a sudden there we were coming on, and it was a great opportunity. And you know, again, yes, I do look back and I see that I was a player and I tried to play the game at a very high level. And was I there for the recognition of the sport? Absolutely not. It's sometimes for me, I'm a little shy in that way, in that aspect of getting recognition, because I look at all the players that have played the game at one level or another and look at them as wanting to see them get that type of recognition. I've been interviewed, I've gone around the world, I've been filmed, I've been number one, I've received all the recognition that I could possibly receive. And where my heart lies is with the player that hasn't, the player that played the game, as we all do, and really, truly, for me to accept this award this weekend is something that I look at as an award that those people were right next to me along the way, and they should feel proud that whether they competed against me or played with me or just watched me play, this is all of our award.
And I was going to say, so you actually feel like you are accepting this for many people tied to your sport, fans and other players alike?
Yes, because these people do not and will never get the opportunity to speak in front of a camera or to have their day in the sun, so to speak, or the glory. You know, the game's very simple. It's pass, set, hit, and there's a lot of players that play the game. I feel more than any sport in the world. And for me to be put up on a pedestal of being number one or, again, being in this position is something that I can't take without thinking about all those other people.
Now, as we talk about beach volleyball, the way that the media and television took it on, There are some folks who might actually believe that because television wanted a product, that they went out and handpicked you guys and said, you're going to play this sport and we're going to televise it and make you a national market item. Tell us a bit about what was going on with Randy Stoklos before television came along to take your sport to the next level. What was going on?
Well, when we first started playing, it was for the handshake and the trophy. TV was not involved, and it was being about the best that you could possibly be. And like you said, the king of the beach went along with it, but that didn't really go all that far. When TV came into it, it provided us not only an avenue to show our sport, but just play at a very high level, and there was just so many good times about it, about being in front of camera. I can remember early in the 80s that TV got a hold of us, and St. John and I became a team in 1982, and we played together for 11 years. I thought one thing to myself, I said, well, I'm going to break out those neon shorts because camera is going to come to me. And in that brightness of me being out there, why not be the person that the camera wants to follow? But that wasn't it. Sinjin and I played a type of a game that was very, very interesting, and it was a type of sport or the type of game that we played was exciting. We changed the sport in so many different ways. From me being the primary blocker, for Sinjin to be the digger behind me, we did not let a ball drop, or we didn't try to.
Certainly.
And by playing that type of game and having the will to play like that, I thought, and I really do feel that people looked at us, that we were quite different than a lot of other volleyball players. The intensity that we brought to the game was unmatched, and the electricity that we brought to the game was unmatched. And yes, there was great players that we played against, and if we hadn't played against those great players, we probably wouldn't be here today, really, because those players lifted our abilities. And but the advent of TV was definitely a positive, and it is to this day today one of the greatest things that happened to the sport.
Now, I don't know if the onset of TV then had you in a position where you had to get agents, you had to get, I don't know, makeup people, critiquers about how to behave. Did the television angle have them come along to you and say, hey, we're going TV, we're going national, here's some more things we need to see out of how you play? Aside from your psychedelic shorts, or call it what you will, but are there some things that you felt they actually were asking or demanding of you since they were taking it to this national arena?
Well, yes, definitely. With the larger sponsors that were involved, they wanted to make sure that their product was coming across correctly. We spent time with people in terms of how we came across camera, even on the interviews of trying to come across with the right answers. Or even when a question was given to us in a way that we possibly shouldn't be answering it that way. And that was all being part of being a professional. But it was all really taken for myself in a very quick pace, because not only did Sinjin and I play in our first tournament and win our first tournament, but we became the #1 team very, very quickly. With that came a lot of responsibilities. Not only the aspect of winning and winning and winning and winning, but the aspect of dealing with the fan, dealing with camera, dealing with the media, promoting the sport. And so all those things came, and it wasn't all that easy in the very beginning, but as we practiced and as we played the game, things became a lot easier along the way.
I'm sure sponsorship money, worldwide travel, higher levels of competition, doing more for your sport as an ambassador, great. Were there some goods and some bads because of what it was becoming versus the days of just being able to just go out there and play and have a good time to take that trophy home?
Well, it's the responsibility of being a player, a responsibility of acting the correct way. The venues in itself, going in and playing in certain places that you really truly didn't want to play. across America. I remember coming to parking lots so that they would bring in the sand, and it really all that wasn't that conducive to playing the game of beach volleyball, or what I thought it was. I was used to Southern California, people in bathing suits, an opportunity to jump in the water after you were done playing. And those things weren't available when all of a sudden I had to go and walk across some bare parking lot. Those things really kind of hit me a little harder than maybe the newer player of today, because they're just accepting of that. But definitely there were things that we had to overcome. But for the most part, I think that we were very positive with every aspect of change. And we were very smart in that way too, because we knew deep down inside that sponsors were going to be around us and want to be around us for one simple reason, because we provided a product that was very entertaining.
And that product exists today. Are you either surprised by it? Are you proud of the fact that you got to be the front runner of it? Tell me some of the things about the AVP then, and maybe getting to have some pride in the fact that it's got some staying power now.
Well, I think it speaks for itself in terms of the game of beach volleyball. There are a number of things that are very positive about the game, and that is, one is the attractiveness of the players, the physicalness of the players, the ability of the players to cover a size of court that normally what people think is a six-man game indoors. Those things in itself really have pushed the sport in a way that not only then, but it is now very, very attractive. Come the Olympic Games, #1 sold out sport, you know. People are going there and wanting to be a part of the sport because of a reason. The funness of the sport, the people that come to see the sport are very unique in itself. There's a lot of energy that we as players drive off of that. I can remember for years and years and years going to certain locations that you would see the same faces, and those people that the energy that they had were unmatched. It was really exciting to come in and play in front of those people, because maybe they couldn't play the game, but they sure knew the game and they really loved the game, and that was really where it was for me, especially for me.
The rules of the game have changed a little bit. Two things first and foremost, scoring. It's no longer serve for point, side out. It's just rally. Every time ball touches, it's point for the other side. The ball hits the net on the serve, drops it, great. You get the point, it's a good thing. If you look at the way the players are playing the game now, and I realize things like the jump serve, something that you fellas invented or innovated back in your time. Do you think if you and St. John were in your prime today, and you look at the Dodds that are out there and stuff, could you compete with those boys today, considering that with the exception of maybe some rules in the game, it hasn't changed much?
Well, if you ask any former player that same question, they're going to go and say the same answer. They'll give you the same answer. Yes, we could compete against them. I'll tell you twofold that the changing of the game is an evolution of what's happening, and I think that it's been all positive. The ball hitting the net and continuing play is a great aspect of continuation of the game. Why stop the game? But the differences that I see now than what we had to deal with back then was twofold. That we didn't know when the game ended, and that was a very, very hard thing to feel. And anybody that has played the regular scoring knows how what that feeling is once you got to 14, to beg for that 15th point, to side out maybe for a half an hour and not know if the game was going to end. That is the biggest difference in the sport today for myself. And it's one thing that really stands out very, very clear to me is that these players they know exactly when the game's going to end. It's all calculated.
Yeah, but if I'm not mistaken, back in the day, didn't you eventually get to a clock, some kind of a rally clock?
We eventually went to the clock.
Oh, but that's why, because the games were getting too long.
Exactly, and that
Gotcha.
was what kind of TV wanted to do. We wanted to put it into a certain time frame, and in that envelope, we had to go and get that game done, and that's why the clock was instituted. But I remember way back when playing 4-hour matches in finals that would go a 2 out of 3 to 15, and then another single game to 15, and those were just incredible matches. Not only that that the game lasted as long as it was, but all those people that came out to see us, it wasn't like they were leaving.
No.
You know,
Sure.
and you know, it's a different game today in the respect of even the fan.
Just based on the changes in the rules, if it wasn't for the fact that TV had to make it time, restrained, do you have a preference between the rally scoring of now versus the, first one to 15, win by 2? Is there a preference?
Well, again, I would have to say that, I might go into being kind of an old school thinking, and that is that, well, why don't those guys kind of play the same game I played, and then they'll feel exactly how I felt? It seems like that they play 2.5 games to our 1 game. But more importantly, like I said before, they know when the game's going to end, one way or the other. There's still an aspect of siding out when you have point game, because you obviously don't want to give the other opponent that mistake, and that's what it all comes down to. But even in the size of the court, that it's been shortened in the era now. I would love to have gotten a Phil Dalhouser and served him back deep where he couldn't pass the ball all the way up to the net. Therefore, he wouldn't get a set that was as accurate as it is today, and therefore that he would be hitting a ball off the net and we could come back and play defense. Remember, we had players like a Phil Dalhouser. Pat Powers was, for example, one of them. Steve Timmons is another, and these are Hall of Famers.
Yes.
And these are players that played the game at a very, very high level. And I look at Phil, and don't get me wrong, he is one of the best players that I've ever seen play the game, not only in terms of his hitting ability, his blocking ability, his passing ability, and his setting ability. He has a full package, and it's kind of what we had in our era, but he is just maybe a little bit more explosive because of the height that he has now, being 6'9". I'm 6'4". I only reached a 1/4 inch over 8 feet. And I look back and wonder sometimes how I got myself out of the sand and how I was able to block and how I was able to jump that high. But again, we played in practice, I think, a lot more than a lot of players to this day. Mm-hmm. And by practicing and working as hard as we did, we elevated our games to different heights.
It's amazing, and I wish I had time to delve into this, but it's worth touching on. If there's one thing from the enshrinees that I get to talk with them about, some of them who go back 30, 40, 50 years in the sport, they talk about how they really do seem to feel that they worked a lot harder than players are seeming to want to come out and work now. If I had to ask a question of you, especially because I believe you've actually sat in for one of the inductees, and she, all over the world. I had an Italian player I spoke with earlier, former Soviet Union, Japan, and they talk about how they kind of have a relative fear about not knowing where the future of volleyball is going to go in the world. Do you have some feelings about where you think the future of volleyball might, as much as I hate to say, end? I don't see it happening, but you realize that if there's not support, it could.
I have no fear at all that the sport will continue. It is, I think for myself, one of the biggest things that I have gotten out of my career was the opportunity to play the game at a high level and to get beach volleyball into the Olympic Games. And now you're going to ask me how that happened. Sinjin and I were the #1 team in the world. We were traveling around the United States, and then we started a world tour. And soon after, we were recognized by international teams and international, basically, countries around the world. When we got the sport into the games, I knew that there were 200 and some odd countries that are going to be that are affiliated under the volleyball flag. Now, every one of those countries have to develop a program for their athletes to go to the Olympic Games. Okay, so for me, we are in the very beginning stages of really where we're going to see the sport of beach volleyball go. Okay, and in twofold, that the sport of beach volleyball then will generate the indoor game, because they're going to have to develop those programs. Those players in those certain countries are going to maybe go one way or the other. They're going to go to the beach game, or they're going to go to the indoor game. Well, if there's something not available for them, they're going to go and take the latter. Okay, so I think the points of where we're going to go with the sport are endless, truly endless. I mean, it is so exciting to see these players from all these different countries playing at such a high level. And it was, say, maybe 25 years ago that wasn't the case. And maybe even the sport of beach volleyball didn't even get the respect that it once is, or that it's getting today. But anybody that's ever walked across the sand or walked along the beach knows how difficult it is to move in the sand. And for me, you know, growing up in Southern California, it was very simple. It was really truly about me going down and playing the game. And what I really saw was the best players indoors came out to play on the beach, and they worked on their skills. You know, the funny thing about beach volleyball is that when you go out there and play, number one, for the most part, you don't have a coach, and you don't have any substitutions. So you're going to go and work your game out right here and then, right? And you're going to be able to either succeed or you're not. And that is the one thing that I feel like really beach volleyball gives to really recreational players or even professionals, the aspect of working out their problems, working out how they're going to receive serve, what they're going to do in terms of their competition, how they're going to go and score points on the beach. It's something that I really feel that is very much of a positive, and that a lot of indoor players can learn from that game. And I always, truly, always go back to the one guy that stands out in my mind that had done that and had made a difference in the sport of volleyball, and that's Coach Karai. Him playing at a young age out on the beach, working on his skills, working to be the best, even in the smallest tournaments, all the way up to all the competitions that I had to deal with. He became the best and truly made even the indoor players and all the players around him even the best. So I feel like beach volleyball and outdoor volleyball is a sport that really should be taken up on really any level, and anybody who plays the game should really think about trying to get out there and working on their skills, because, you know, like I said, there's no hiding out there. Either you're going to have a good day or you're going to have a bad day.
You know, the sport has truly benefited from your contribution, easily credited as an innovator to help bring awareness to the outdoor game, still an ambassador for the sport on every level, and now inducted with the class of 2008 to the Volleyball Hall of Fame. Everybody, Randy Stoklos. Pleasure chatting with you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and welcome to our world. Thank you.